we're going to talk about all that all day long here. We got plenty of content coming for you guys. Right now, I got John McMullen joining me right now here on a Football 24/7 edition. Right now, Tuesday,
Yeah, you're a little shaky. Do you have me?
I got you now. Yeah, where are you, on the bridge or something, or close to it? Sometimes that's where it gets a little spotty.
No, I just left my house running a little bit late this morning because of Howie Roseman dropping a bomb on us at night.
Yeah, John, we finished up our show last night. I don't know. I got off the air around 8:30. Howie drops the bomb. I'm like, let me get right back on the air. So we react to it in real time. John, real quick, man, what is your first reaction? Because it does show a lot of things in my eyes, John. Does it say things about the tackle room? You get rid of a good depth piece in Thomas Booker. I said earlier, John, it's not a guy that you're building your franchise around, but what he was a depth piece on the defensive line that you felt good about. Like when Thomas Booker was on the field, I don't think people were like, we got a stiff out there, get him off. He was a good depth player in that room. And you bring in now another young cornerback who was drafted one spot ahead of Keely Ringo in the 2023 draft. And you got a cheap deal, 2 years. John, what's your first reaction to this trade by Howie Roseman?
Yeah, I think it's a typical August trade, and I had mentioned defensive tackles, potentially a place that they could trade player for player. I think it says more about their comfort with Gabe Hall and their comfort of the cornerback room. So I think it's far more about the cornerback room. Obviously, that's the player you're getting back. Then it says it actually says something good about the defensive tackle room. And Gabe's had a nice summer. And then also I asked Big Fangio about Ty Robinson, which has been a struggle for him early, which is typical for most rookies. But the Eagles have had this run of guys hitting the field and being contributors right away. And, you know, Vic kind of understands it's a process with him, but he's going to be here. So they you know, relatively compared to other teams, they still had decent depth at defensive tackle, and that's why they were able to take from that to get another potential contributor in that race to be the cornerback too. And, you know, who are they unhappy with? You know, Vic is keeping that close to the vest. He said it's even. The Eagles put out their first unofficial depth chart. They used the college slash that they always do to see co-starters with Adoree Jackson and Keely Ringo. He's clearly not happy with the way it's going, is what this tells me. And that of course is a little bit disappointing. But Jakorian Bennett, as you mentioned, got picked ironically the spot before Keely Ringo in the 2023 draft. And he's already started 11 games now. You know, sometimes you're starting out of necessity. Obviously, for his time there, the Raiders were a bad football team, so that factors into it. But, you know, I also think the fact that, you know, Brandon Hunt's out there, Anthony Patch is out there now.
Right.
You know, John Spytek is the GM. He used to work for the Eagles years ago. There's a comfort level that both sides are, you know, not trying to swindle the other side. So the Raiders obviously had all those problems with Christian Wilkins, so they need a contributor on the interior of the defensive line. The Eagles feel they need more at corner, and so it makes sense.
John, do you think this guy can be a starter, or do you think this is purely a depth move? I mean, I think the potential is there. I don't know if he would be that type of player in year one, but again, drafted same time as Ringo and certainly has more playing time than Ringo. Do you view this guy as a player who could presumably start for this team early in the season, or do you think this is more of a depth move at the corner spot?
I think it's more of like an Isaiah Rodgers type move last year.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Especially, you know, even though it's early in August, you know, we've talked about that a lot with Vic, and you know, it's hard to imagine that he's going to say, all right, you know, you start out like back in the day when Steven Nelson showed up as a veteran player 2 days before camp, and he was taking the first team reps on the first day of camp and never left that job. I don't think it's that type of situation. I think it's, throw another potential body in the mix and let the best man win. But the youth part of it, now you have Ringo and Riggs and another young body, and you say to yourself, you got 3 darts instead of 1. Hopefully 1 hits.
Right. We'll see. Johnny Mac, how do you think he fits in the Fangio's scheme? This is a guy who played a lot of nickel corner in his college. Not a lot, but he played, I think, almost 250 snaps in college at the nickel, played predominantly outside in the NFL. He's 5'11", 195, John, and a speedy dude, very, very fast. How do you think he fits into what Vic Fangio wants to do on defense?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't think he's playing nickel. 720 of his 800-something snaps in the pros have been outside. He's not the prototypical lengthy corner, but there's plenty of 5'11" guys playing outside corner in the NFL successfully. So he's not, perfect from a size standpoint, but clearly he's been more comfortable outside. Very similar to Rodgers again. Rodgers is smaller, so a lot of people, would speculate, well, why don't you put him in the slot? And he just, he's a good outside corner, and he likes playing outside. He's more comfortable outside. So it seems like, I don't think he's going to be involved in the nickel part of it. I think he's here to be an outside corner, but we'll see. I mean, Vic often looks at somebody and says, you know what?
Right.
I see something else, most notably Zach Bowen.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there, Johnny Mac. Going to be interesting to see how it is. John, the risk on this player, injured. He's been injured a lot. He missed last year. I think he was put on IR in November after starting, I believe it was 7 games to start the season, and he missed the rest of the season with a shoulder issue. Is this a classic Howie Roseman, buy low, and with a high hope for a young player who really, he did show some things, John. I reached out to a buddy of mine who, watches all the Vegas games, and he's like, look, this guy showed a lot actually last year before he got hurt. Now, we forgot about him because he got hurt so early, but when he was on the field, he really started to show some good signs. Now, I don't know why they would have gotten rid of him at this point. They got a new regime there, new coach, obviously all those different things. Maybe he just didn't fit what they were doing. But what do you think about that part of it, the risk with the player, and kind of why Howie went this route? How do you think Howie's viewing this?
Well, like I said, I don't think they're happy. I think it says, actions speak louder than words. I don't think they're happy with the way the battle is going for cornerback 2, and they just want to add more competition. And this is a kid that's not going to turn 25 until later this month, so he's still very young. Can't legislate injuries, that type of thing. You hope the worm turns from that standpoint. As you mentioned, the regime change in Las Vegas, so everybody there is not the guys who drafted him, so they might have a different vision. Pete Carroll has a history of playing cover 3 specifically. I don't know if he's evolved from that. I haven't been paying attention from Las Vegas, but that is a lot different than what Vic does. So it could be scheme specific, and maybe he projects as a better fit here. But until you see him, and until you see how Vic is going to utilize him, and I'm sure he's going to start him slowly. It is a more complicated defense than a cover 3 would be. So you have to see how he picks it up later in the process. Not terribly late like C.J. Gardner-Johnson or even John Dotson last year, but late. He's behind the 8 ball when it comes to everybody else and knowing this scheme. So how quickly does he pick it up? But he's going to be here. That's one thing you could say.
Right.
He's going to be a backup corner. I would be I think it'll be difficult for him to go win the job week one. We always talk about week one. I don't know
Right.
why that's so important, but it is to a lot of people. I don't think he's going to be starter week one, but that doesn't mean if he picks it up and he's playing better that he's not starting at some point in the season. I think he's a relevant piece, or they hope he's going to be a relevant piece.
John, who's the biggest loser here? Is it Ringo or is it Adoree Jackson, who now I don't even like, kind of, I don't think they're going to move on from Adoree Jackson, at least
Well,
it
they
doesn't
could.
feel like it. Well, that's what I was going to get to. Is he the biggest loser in this? Because let's be real, Ringo's probably not going anywhere, despite they just added competition for him. I don't think he's going anywhere versus Adoree Jackson. Boy, I heard Vic Fangio say, hey, that's a Howie guy about a week ago, and now they trade for a cornerback. I don't know, John. Who's the biggest loser in this trade for the Birds?
Yeah, on the surface, I would say Adoree, because you're right. I mean, Kaylee's going to be here. He's
Right.
at the bare minimum, he's their best punt gunner. He's a key part of special teams, and he's already shown he's really good at that. And obviously he's under contract in his rookie deal. He's going to be here. Adoree, any of those Tamu guys, they can move on from with no problem. So, yeah, I mean, now Vic tempered some of those thoughts. That was 2 press conferences ago when he said essentially he's a Howie guy. He had softened a little bit and said he was playing better, picking things up. But again, actions speak louder than words. The guy's here for a reason. And I mean, to a certain degree, at corner, it's a negative for both Ringo and Jackson. But because Ringo's going to be here as a key part of Michael Clay's coverage units, I would lean towards it being more of an indictment for Adoree.
Yeah, we'll see how that shakes out, Johnny Mac. With that, John, you just mentioned something Vic said that caught many's ear last week, and that was Adoree's a Howie guy. Do you think Jakorian Bennett is a Howie guy, or do you think he said, all right, Vic, you don't like Adoree, you tell me any name out there you like, anybody that you think could be acquired? Now, I know how Vic Fangio is probably worried about a whole lot of other things outside of who the hell Jakorian Bennett is. But I'm just throwing it out there because Vic did say that, and I thought that was an interesting comment. Oh, he was a Howie guy. Is Jakorian Bennett a Howie guy? I'd love to hear if
well, real quick, he didn't use that phrasing, so I don't want to get that out there. He just said that he didn't want a lot of tape on him, and that sometimes Howie wants to sign a guy, and he's going to sign a guy. He didn't call him a Howie, so I want to make that clear because people were going to take that in a negative direction. But yeah, I mean everybody who comes here is a Howie guy.
Yeah,
like
right.
I think there's this mentality that Vic's telling them where to get players, and that was the best part of that give and take. It's like, no, Howie makes those decisions, and then Vic, gets the player and utilizes him the best way that he can. So Vic is not paying, as you mentioned. He's got a lot of work to do here. He's not watching tape of Jakorian Bennett at this stage, but I'm sure he did in the draft process and things like that. Maybe he likes him. Howie, is very cognizant you're not doing your job right if you're not getting players that the coaches like. So he's learned that over the years many times. Now you have to be sometimes. It works both ways though. The coaching staff wanted Jalen Reagor, and he gave them what they wanted.
Right.
And he got shit on for it, and so that was like the demarcation point. He said, "Well, if I'm going to get all the what, I'm going to make the decisions," and he makes the decisions. But he would be doing himself a disservice if he got a bunch of players that didn't fit what the coaches want to do. And nobody's perfect. You already saw it with Bryce Huff. Now you may be seeing it in real time with another player. and you learn from that, and you shift gears because nobody's perfect. But yeah, Vic doesn't walk into his office and say, "Get me Jakorian Bennett."
Yeah, no. But I do wonder if there's dialogue, before you make the move. You know what I mean? Like, hey, Vic, I'm thinking about this player. This is a skill set. I'm sure.
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I
I mean, there's dialogue. Yeah, of course, and that's part of. Again, Howie's not going to. Howie's going to the Hall of Fame. He's not going to Hall of Fame because he doesn't listen to, what his coaches want.
Right.
So it's always collaborative, and they use that word a lot. But the buck stops with Howie.
Good stuff.
So
Johnny
they're all
Mac.
Howie guys.
Yeah, they're all Howie guys. It's Howie's world. We're living in it, everybody. No doubt about it. John, coming into camp, you've been pretty adamant and consistent that the edge rushers are your biggest concern. And with this move, I'm not saying that's changed because nothing changed in the edge rushing room, but does this potentially, increase the concern on the cornerback spot, knowing that the Eagles, the first move they made was to bring in more depth in this spot? We already have talked about what this shows about, their confidence level in both Adoree Jackson and Kelee Ringo. Has this shifted at all your mindset or your thought process on, the depth and the talent that they have coming into the season at the cornerback room?
No, other than, I was always concerned about cornerback, and I pretty much, as somebody cuts me off on 42, trying to kill me early in the morning.
Don't get killed, J-Mac. We need your brother.
Yeah, so, I never thought, I've been saying pretty consistently, I think it's going to be way more difficult to replace Slay than people think. So I always had some concern, but I thought there was a higher ceiling at cornerback if Kelee started to get it than there was at edge rusher with some of the other guys, the Azeez Ojulari's, Josh's, and even Jalix Hunt, at least early, because Jalix is further behind on the developmental trajectory than Kelee. So they're both needs. And I thought Adoree Jackson was a decent insurance policy as well. Like, I think he, to me, and I think I said it a couple times, to me, I was more confident of him as in the Tamu signings than Ojulari or Uche at their positions. But, if Vic don't like you, Vic don't like you. We've already seen that. And then I haven't seen much from Ojulari specifically in camp. Now, part of that is who he's going against and all that. And now we've seen a couple flashes from Josh Uche, but mainly against Kendall Lamb. And again, understandable because of who the first team tackles are. But yeah, I'm still more worried about edge rusher. And then I think it's more important. Not that corner's not important, because it's very important, but if you're rating the positions, to me, it's you either get the quarterback or get to the quarterback. That's the adage. So to me, the quarterback is obviously the most important position, but the second most important position in the NFL, I would argue, is edge rusher.
Good stuff, Johnny Mac. John, day 10 today, brother. Let's get into that real quick before I let you run. What's going on day 10? Who's set to speak this morning? I got bogged down by Jakorian Bennett, John. We were live late last night. What's up with day 10 today as we move into last practice, open practice of the week before a walkthrough tomorrow and a game on Thursday?
Last practice, as you mentioned, before the preseason opener. So you're going to get those wonderful questions. Nick, who's gonna play in Thursday night's game? So you'll get all those questions from Nick Sirianni pre-practice, and I'm sure you know what the answers are going to be. I think you're going to see plenty of guys on the defensive side of the ball getting somewhat significant snaps who are competing. And offensively, I think it would have to, I said it yesterday, I think it would have to be a Jalen Hurts type. Hey, I want to get a series or two, and then everybody will come along. But obviously, if you don't want to play the offensive line, you're not going to play the quarterback or the running back. So get ready for a lot of Tanner McKee, and that'll excite some people. And Will Shipley and Anaya Smith and Johnny Wilson get to see some of these second-year players who need to step up on the offensive side of the ball as well. So plenty of stuff to look at when it comes to the preseason game that I think will be interesting for Eagles fans and guys who you should be focused on. But as far as the key players on offense, again, I think it all hinges on Jalen Hurts, and if he wants to do a series or two, either way, be situated in the recliner if you want to see it.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't think he'll be on the football field. Johnny Mac, great stuff today, brother. Get down to the stadium safely, man. We appreciate you doing it. Jakorian Bennett, John, the newest Eagle you'll be covering, and we'll be talking about it all here on JAKIB Sports on Birds 365 and on our morning shows, Football 24/7. J-Mac, thank you, brother. I'll catch you tonight.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. See you, Johnny Mac. There's Johnny Mac joining us here on a Football 24/7 morning edition. Jakorian Bennett has landed, baby. Let's see what he can do. It's going to be interesting to see what it means for everybody and what it means for the cornerback spot, for Ringo, for Adoree Jackson. I'm happy that John agreed. I thought Adoree Jackson was quickly the biggest loser from this trade, and John did agree with that, just from a sense that Ringo's going to be here. They're not going to move on from Ringo just yet. You got 2 years left on that deal. So now you got two young guys drafted around the same spot who are duking it out. Let's get to some